So welcome to the current episode of The Truth, and I appreciate you for stopping by. Hopefully you'll pick up some info here today, and it'll be worth your time. As always, I ask if you just go to the website, patmcclanahan.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, it lists all of the social media platforms that I post this podcast on. And if you would, like or subscribe or whatever the terminology is for that particular social media site, if you would take advantage of increasing my numbers, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also on the website, this same website, if you would go to the bottom of the page, the home page, there is an opportunity for you to subscribe to the newsletter so that anytime I upload something, I can just send out an email to everyone. They get it. They don't have to go looking for my podcast. They don't have to wonder if they've missed something. But would really appreciate that if you would do it. It would help me out a whole lot. All right. So there are some changes that not big changes necessarily, but after the election in November, I just got feeling like I was supposed to do something more than come up with just random whatever ideas to speak on. And I guess they weren't necessarily random anyway, because I always talk to the Lord about what I felt I was supposed to present. And after spending some time talking to the Lord, I believe that He has directed me to take some of my episodes this spring and in this season of the year to keep other Virginians up to date on what's going on in Richmond, what's coming out of the governor's office, what's coming out of the legislature, and those sorts of things. It's a concern because here in Virginia, we did have a Republican governor that kind of kept some of the laws, some of the bills from going through that maybe weren't something that I would appreciate. But now everything in the state of Virginia, the governor's mansion, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, both houses of the legislature are controlled by Democrats. And so we just want to get the word out. And I think it's something that would be good no matter who is in the governor's mansion or who is in control of the legislature. Just for people to be aware. People need to be aware, and they need to be a part of the government process. So I'm going to try and do that. And so I'm starting off today. There are 4 state constitutional amendments that are moving forward. And I find it kind of surprising how many people don't actually know that those 4 constitutional amendments are even out there. And so we're going to talk about those today. If you're not aware, in Virginia, I wasn't aware until this probably about 6 months ago, of the process that it goes through to pass a constitutional amendment in Virginia. In fact, I am unaware of how it happens in any state that I've ever lived. So in Virginia, it's pretty straightforward. There's not any hidden tricks or anything. Basically, a resolution is presented, and it must pass both houses of the assembly, the Senate and the Council of Delegates, or not Council of Delegates, but the House of Delegates. And so then once it's passed, and the governor in Virginia has no say. He can't veto it, he can't block it, he can't do anything to it. He's out of the entire process. So once it's passed, an election has to occur. We just had an election here in November in Virginia, and so the first 2 requirements have passed for all 4 of the amendments. They've been approved by both houses of the state legislature. An election has occurred, and now those 4 bills, those 4 amendments get reintroduced. They can't change them. They can't change a thing. The language and everything has to stay the same. So they're reintroduced. They're voted on again, and if they pass, then they go out to a statewide vote. They're put on a ballot, and everybody in the state gets a chance to say yes or no, and that's the process. So all 4 of these amendments have reached the 3rd milestone, which means they were approved last year by both houses. An election was held in November, and now they're getting ready to introduce these bills again. And once they are approved, then a date for the election will occur. Now, one of the things I have heard is that they being the party in power, is considering using a referendum instead of waiting until November to do an election in November. And it's like, why would they do that? And some people think that the party in power is doing that because the voter turnout for referendums is a whole lot less than voter turnout for elections in November. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I haven't talked to any of the Democratic legislators to see if that's really on their mind or not. So I wanted to talk about these 4 amendments. There's 2 of them that are I wouldn't say inconsequential, but they're not big items. There is one of them that simply allows certain individuals who have a felony on their record, certain kinds of felonies, to be able to vote again. In the state of Virginia right now, as it stands, if you have a felony on your record, you can't vote at all. And so there's a certain group of felonies that they feel it's, you know, if the individual has served their time, has fulfilled their parole and any other requirements, that they should have the right to vote. And right now, I think they were saying there's like 300,000 individuals in the state of Virginia that do not have a right to vote. And I don't believe it's all 300,000 of them that would regain that right, but at least some of them would. So, you know, that's a decision that kind of you have to make. Well, all of them. We make our own decision. There's another one on about redistricting for the elections, changing the voting districts for the House in Washington D.C. and the state offices as well. You know, and it seems like a lot of states are doing this right now. You know, it seems to have kind of started with the state of Texas and their attempt to redistrict to gain the Republicans 5 more seats in the House of Representatives, and other states have started to do things to try to counteract that. And I guess to me, most of these, and I haven't read all of them, but it just seems to me that it's a political ploy. The one here in Virginia basically allows the party in power, who at the current time are Democrats, can change the boundaries of the voting districts when they want to. Now, there is a clause in there that says, hey, if any other state makes any kind of changes, then that triggers the ability in Virginia to change the voting districts. And I guess to me, in Virginia anyway, in 2020, there was a ballot item that was passed. 62% of the people in Virginia voted for it. And it said that the districts, the voting districts, would be managed by a nonpartisan board, and that it would happen every 10 years after the census was done. So in 2020, there was a census done, And when those figures came out, when those numbers came out, this board would divide up the state into districts. And I guess I don't see what's wrong with that, but I get that everybody's playing politics with this whole thing of redrawing the voting districts anytime they want to keep themselves in power. Again, you have to make up your decision as to whether that's really fair. I don't believe that the right to vote in our country is a wonderful thing, and we shouldn't be messing with it. But everybody wants to play politics with it. The other two amendments then are ones that have a lot more meat to them, I guess. One is a marriage amendment that will redefine what marriage is, and you can see the flyer on the left-hand side shows that the first session was last year. The election occurred in November. We're in the second session, and then the ballot will come. And basically, what they are doing is they are adding wordage to allow. The marriage would be defined as being able to be between any two adults, regardless of the sex, the gender, or the race of any person. So basically, anybody can marry anybody else. And you'll see it at the bottom of the flyer on the right, some concerns that have been brought up. One, I think, that needs to be addressed, but they can't because they can't change it, but is pastors. There are some pastors that are not allowed to perform same-sex marriages because of the requirements in the denomination or the church body they belong to, and so that's going to create some problems. One of the things that is pointed out is that this amendment embeds the concept of gender into the Virginia Constitution, because it says that marriage, legal marriage, regardless of sex or gender or race. And so this puts gender into the Virginia Constitution, and it's just like anything. You start small. You slide this in here, and then it just kind of grows on you. And from that inclusion of gender ideology into the Virginia Constitution, there are concerns then that that's going to lead to more pushing for things like males in female sports or males in women's safe places. So there is a concern with this amendment, and I guess I don't agree with this one. Being a conservative Christian individual, I do believe that, as the Bible tells us, that went to the wrong place. So the Bible tells us that God created man in his own image, and he created them male and he created them female, and he didn't make mistakes. He doesn't screw something up, and so I guess I hold to that. And it also tells us that each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband, and this is not a trans his or a trans hers. This is a biological man with his own biological female wife, and vice versa. And so there is really some concern about this amendment. And again, everybody has to choose on their own, but if you are choosing based on your faith, you should listen to what the Lord tells us and what His Word says about marriage, and talk to Him about it before you just go off and make a decision. So that is, it'll be interesting to see what the results are. And the other amendment is an abortion amendment. And I guess this is probably a bigger concern and issue. To me, I think that I don't agree with the idea of abortion, and I'm not going to read the overall the entire amendment, but the part that okay, so it says the amendment prohibits the Commonwealth from penalizing, prosecuting, or otherwise taking adverse action against an individual for exercising the individual's right to reproductive freedom or for the aiding another individual in the exercise of such rights unless justified by a compelling state interest. So there are a few pieces here that concern me. There's no limit on it. The current Virginia law says up to the third trimester. So this sets out no guidelines as far as how late in the pregnancy. So we basically they could have abortions up to the moment of birth and call it good. This idea of reproductive freedom, that's the words they use in the amendment, reproductive freedom. And that's a very broad, kind of undefined phrase. There is great concern that would allow for unregulated sale and purchase of human embryos, unethical research, and making human beings basically a commodity. It also takes away parental rights from any say over their children, because a child can go to get an abortion and there can't be any adverse actions taken against anybody. And that's the other thing. It says you can't take, there's no actions, you can't take any actions against anybody, against the individual or another individual. And it doesn't even say doctor. There is concerns about that too, because it says any other individual. So, whoever helps assists in an abortion is not going to get into trouble, whether it's a doctor or not. There is a concern that children that survive a failed abortion can be left to die once the failed abortion has produced a living human being. They can just leave them to die, and I think that is a horrible thing to even contemplate. There is the concern that Virginia will become a abortion tourism destination where people from out of state will come because it is so easy to get abortions here in Virginia. If we look at some of the numbers, in 2024, there were 38,500 children that lost their lives to abortion. And in the last 7 years, that's from 2018 to 2025, the annual volume of abortions in Virginia grew 126%, which is kind of a staggering number. There's been a 30% increase in the number of people coming from out of state into Virginia to get their abortion. There's at least 5 new abortion facilities that are being built in Virginia. There is one in Richmond that the city of Richmond is trying to give Planned Parenthood a $1 million building for $10, so that they can put an abortion facility in Richmond. And again, if we go and we look at what the Lord's word has to say about this, the Lord makes it clear. In Isaiah, he says, "Thus says the Lord who made you, who formed you from the womb and will help you." So right there, the Lord's word, he made us, he formed us in the womb. And he's going to help us. I mean, he's here for us in our everyday life, but he's the one that formed us. He tells us in Jeremiah, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you." God knew us before we were even in the womb. So, this, see, there's a couple more. "Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, and the fruit of the womb a reward." Children are a heritage from the Lord. "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." And to me, the idea that we are so arrogant to think that we have the right to dismantle the creation of God, that God creates the human being in a mother's womb, and some people just believe that, because of whatever the reason, they can go in and just take it away, destroy it, and overcome it. The Bible also tells us that anyone that does these little ones wrong, anyone that causes these little ones to sin, it's better if they tie a stone around their neck and cast themselves into the sea. I just pray that people would take the time to write their legislators, call them, let them know, if these 2 amendments make it to the ballot box, I pray that you would go out and you would vote, and you would vote against them. You would vote in a manner that is worthy of being called a follower of Christ. This is not a time to sit quietly by and wait for everybody else to make the decision. We have to stand up as the church of Jesus Christ. We have to take the lead, because nobody else has taken the lead. Stand up. Make a stand for God, and hopefully you will do that, and that you will spread the word. Tell your friends, tell your family that they need to go and vote. We can still yet stop any of these 4 amendments, but the marriage amendment and the abortion amendment, we need to do it. We need to do it, and I pray that God would work that out for us. So, anyway, hopefully that was something that you can use, something that you will make use of, and God bless you, and we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.